Now, another set of ideas, which of course are very, very well known to the world, that of course you have originated, center around the terms introversion and extroversion.
Yeah.
And I know that you're aware of the fact that these terms have now become so widely known that the man on the street is using these terms constantly, describing his wife or his friends and so on and so forth. It's become the most, probably the most used psychological concepts by the layman that we have.
Oh, like the word complex. I have invented it too.
Yes,
also
that's right.
Association experiments.
Yes, that's right.
Well, you see, this is simply practical, because there are certain people who definitely are more influenced by their surroundings than by their own intentions. While there are other people who are more influenced by the subjective factor. Now you see, the subjective factor, that's very characteristic, was understood by Freud as a sort of pathological autoerotism.
Yes, yes.
Now this is a mistake. You know, we have, the psyche has two conditions, two important conditions. The one is the environmental influence,
yes.
And the other is the given fact of the psyche as it is born. The psyche is by no means tabula rasa. We are a definite mixture and combination of genes.
Yes.
And they are there from the very first moment of our life. And they give a definite character, even to the little child. And that is a subjective factor, looked at from the outside. Now, if you look at it from the inside,
yes,
then it is just so as if you would observe the world.
yes.
When you observe the world, you see people, you see houses, you see the sky, you see tangible objects. But when you observe yourself within, you see moving images.
Yes.
A world of images.
Yes.
Generally known as fantasies.
Fantasies.
Yet these fantasies are facts. You see, it is a fact that a man has such and such a fantasy. And it is such a tangible fact, for instance, that when a man has a certain fantasy, another man may lose his life.
Yes.
Or a bridge is built.
Yes.
These houses were all fantasies.
Yes.
Everything you do here, all of
That's
the
right.
houses, everything was fantasy to begin with. And fantasy has a proper reality. That is not to be forgotten. Fantasy is not nothing. It is, of course, not a tangible object, but it is a fact nevertheless. It is, say, a form of energy.
Yes.
Despite the fact we can't measure it.
Yes.
It is a manifestation of something.
Yes.
And that is a reality. That is just a reality as, for instance, the peace treaty of Versailles or something like that. It is no more. You can't show it.
Yes.
But it has been a fact.
Yes. Yes.
And so the psychical events are facts, are realities. And when you observe the stream of images within, you observe an aspect of the world.
Yes.
Of the world within. Because the psyche, you know, if you understand it as a phenomenon that takes place in so-called living bodies, then it is a quality of matter. As our body consists of matter, we discovered that this matter has another aspect, namely a psychic aspect.
Yes. Yes.
And so it is simply the world from within, seen from within.
Yes.
It is just as if we were seeing into another aspect of matter.
Yes.
This is an idea that is not my invention. That the old Democritus already said, talked of the spiritus insertus atomis,
Yes.
namely the spirit that is inserted in atoms.
Yes. Yes.
That means psyche is a quality that appears in matter. Doesn't matter whether we understand it or not.
Yes.
But this is the conclusion we come to.
Yes.
If we draw conclusions without prejudices.
Yes.
And so, you see, the man who is going by the external world, by the influences of the external world, say society or perceptions, sense perceptions, thinks that he is more valid, you know, because this is valid, this is real. And the man who goes by the subjective factor is not valid because subjective factor is nothing. Yeah. No, that man is just as well based because he is bases himself upon the world from within. Yeah. And so he is quite right, even if he says, oh, there is nothing but my fantasy, you know. Yeah. And of course that is the introvert. And that the introvert is always afraid of the external world. He will tell you, when you ask him, he will be apologetic about it. Yeah. He will say, of course, yes, I know only my fantasies. And he has always a resentment. And as the world in general, particularly America, is extroverted like hell, the introvert has no place. Yeah. Yeah. Because he doesn't know that he beholds the world from within. Yeah. And that gives him dignity, and that gives him certainty, because it is, nowadays particularly, the world hangs on a thin thread. Yeah. And that is the psyche of man. Yeah. Assume that certain fellows in Moscow lose their nerve or their common sense for a bit, and the whole world is in fire and flames. Yeah, yeah. It is, nowadays we are not threatened by elementary catastrophes. There is no such thing as an H-bomb. That is all man's doing. Yeah. We are the great danger. The psyche is the great danger. What if something goes wrong with the psyche? Yeah. See? And so you see, it is demonstrated to us in our days what the power of the psyche is of man, how important it is to know something about it, but we know nothing about it. Nobody would give credit to the idea that the psychical processes of the ordinary man have any importance whatever. One thinks, oh, he has just what he has in his head, it is all from his surrounding, he's taught such a thing, believes such a thing. And particularly if he's well housed and well fed, then he has no ideas at all. And that's the great mistake. Because he is just that as which he is born, and he is not born as tabula rasa, but as a reality.
Yes. Yes. Now, of course, one of the very common, I think, misconceptions of your work among some of the writers in America have been that they had sort of characterized your discussions of introversion and extroversion as suggesting that the world was made up of only two kinds of people, introverts on one hand and extroverts on the other. And I'm sure you've been aware of, in many of our books, people looking at things this way. And of course, we'd like to comment about that. In other words, would you perceive the world being made up of only people or extreme introverts, people that are extreme extroverts?
Well, Bismarck once said, God may protect me against my friends. With my enemies, I can deal myself alone. You know, we know how people are. They catch a word, and then everything is schematized along that word. There is no such thing as a pure extrovert or a pure introvert. Yes. Such a man would be in the lunatic asylum. Those are only terms to designate a certain penchant, a certain tendency. For instance, the tendency to be more influenced by environmental influences or more influenced by the subjective factor. That's all. Yes. And you see, there are people who are very well balanced and are just as much influenced from within as they are from without, yes. Or just as little. Yes. Yes. And so with all the finer classifications, you know, yes. They are only sort of point de repère, points for orientation.
Certainly